Hey everyone, and welcome to our very special crossover edition here. We're establishing some international relationships between the Democratic People's Republic of New Jersey, the soon-to-be walled-off Democratic People's Republic of New Jersey, and our friends to the north, Matt and Evan from the podcast Nooks and Crannies. I've been honored to be on their show a few times. And of course, as always, my business partner, Brian Powers, is here with me tonight. So welcome everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Matt's the one hiding behind his microphone in case you need any clarity on that one.
Matt's the one who's photophobic. Yeah.
And I'm the one
very nervous.
I'm the one with the laundry room in the background because we're still redoing the studio here, and I couldn't get the last banner up in time. So excuse the mess behind me. But we got the banner. We're branded, so.
Right. I just have the wine behind me, as always, So.
I can't smoke weed in the studio. It sucks, but it is.
Why does it interfere with the laundry? Is that the...
All right. So I guess the first topic, we have to talk a little bit about the pandemic that's going on. How are you guys doing up there in Canada?
Evan, okay, so I'm in BC, British Columbia, and Evan's in Ontario. So up here in Canada, it's kind of province by province in the respects of like how severe it is and also how the provincial governments have been responding. So Evan can, I guess, speak about Ontario. And I can talk about BC. So.
Yeah, I guess BC was hardest hit at first, right? You're close to Washington State, so it's been hitting you guys pretty hard. Ontario's third worst, I think. We're doing all right over here.
Yeah, exactly. For once, Ontario doesn't want to be first in something. A little inside Canadian humor there. Don't worry about it, folks. BC. I think the government's been responding well. We've had, I think, 14 deaths, unfortunately. And there is a elder care facility in North Vancouver called Lynn Valley, where it kind of ripped through there and 11 people passed away. So aside from that, it's like, people are kind of, it's really sad. And there's been a worker in a care facility here in Surrey, where that's actually my hometown, that has tested positive. So they're sort of like quarantining and shutting down that particular section of the care home. And same deal out in Langley, which is a town just like next to Surrey. Same deal at a elder care facility. So aside from these isolated cases, I think province-wide, like, our elected officials have been doing a good job, and I would say that because I'm a hack for that political party. I'm a member of the NDP, so I think they're doing a great job. And then we also have this kind of a rising star of a public health official named Dr. Bonnie Henry, I believe is her name, and she's becoming a bit of a superstar, delivering like the updates.
Is she the one who wears the periodic table dress every time she gives a update?
I think so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
It's pretty popular online.
Yeah, people are already saying like if she put her name forward as like candidate for premier, the leader of the province, she would probably win. So I don't know. I think everyone is like we're hoarding toilet paper just like everyone else.
You guys are doing that too?
Absolutely.
If that's not just an American thing.
I've been doing that for ages, so I'm ahead of the curve here.
Me too. I'm just cheap. Like that's why I do it. And
I think this may actually be the thing that brings America to accept the bidet more. Like, Americans are very reluctant to use the bidet, but I think this may be what's or the 3 seashells.
This is not giving me more hope for humanity.
Yeah, so we're okay here in BC. I hear it's like pandemonium in Ontario. So how's it going up there, Evan?
Well, I think Toronto's a lot harder hit. I'm in the capital, Ottawa here, so we're looking at something like 100 cases at the moment. But everybody's locked away. Nobody's outside. I just went for a walk in the rain. There was nobody there, so it's a ghost town. It's good, and things seem to be moving slowly enough. I'm sure we're going to be pretty fine compared to other places. What's New Jersey like though?
I think we just hit like 13,000 infected today in New Jersey.
Wow.
I don't know how many deaths.
Holy cow!
But yeah, it's.
So I can pull up the website if you want.
Okay.
If I could share the screen real quick, I could actually show you what we've been looking at. We did a little bit of a recap on New Jersey, and then just give me a second there, Heather, and I'll pull it up for you real quick.
What are the
Yeah.
streets looking like in the meantime? Like, is the city completely shut down? Or are people still going about
Not
normal
as much
business?
as it should be. Like, I mean, most in New Jersey, at least, like all non-essential businesses are shut down. But people are still just out and about a lot. Like people that I have never seen walking their dog, like walk their dog like 8 or 9 times past my house now. Like people are out a lot. So I think we still have a lot of people that aren't taking it serious.
It's
No?
not. No, people are starting to get it, but it's catching on too slow. But where I'm at looks like it may be.
Yeah, do you want to tell everybody where you are? You're really close to New York City.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see New York City all the time driving around where I live, maybe 20, 25 miles, like if a straight line. People, there is a train stop that goes to New York City 4 or 5 times a day, 6 times a day, that drops off right feet away from my house. It's less than half a mile from my house. My kids go to school right there. They just built a train, like one of the big things in New Jersey right now, with some of these smaller train side communities, has been building these little villages where people can just, commuter villages where there's a small shopping center, a little, it's economic stimulus money went into this kind of stuff. And so basically, I live next to a hive of people that have gone back and forth to New York City daily.
Right.
Right.
When you think about and the way our commuter rail system works, which I don't know how many people travel that routes, then the tunnels and everything like that, it all dumps right into Newark, New Jersey, into my area. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if just about everybody in my town has gotten this thing. And it's just a matter of who becomes
Jesus.
I've been in the stores. You go, there's a Quickie Mart right there. I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that term. There's my apologies. But there's a convenience store right there. There's a bar right there. There's a gym. And people hop off the train and go. This thing, I'm talking about my block neighborhood, I'm not talking.
Are the bars and gyms still open? Like, are they non-essential? Okay, good.
Okay, good.
In New Jersey, New Jersey governor for the last, I don't know, Heather, about when did Dear Leader Murphy start putting out his orders to shut down the state?
He was a little slow, but I think it's been like at least 2 weeks now. I think that we've been under, if not a little bit more, it might be like 2.5 weeks.
You guys are on par with us, basically, in that sense.
He started a slow roll in. Like first, it was just okay, no gatherings over 50, and then he got more and more stringent as the days. But now Trump is talking about building a wall around us. Trump is saying he's going to officially quarantine New York and New Jersey.
I may be for this idea. I'll be honest.
I said that's the perfect time to start our communist regime here in New Jersey.
I offered to go bargain with Comrade Trump after his wealth redistribution checks. I'll come out.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you know in Canada they're getting $2,000 a month as their checks?
I thought they did
really?
That regularly. I have a very bad stereotype thing about Canadians.
Evan, can you sign me up for this?
Well, you got to apply. You got to say that you're put out of work by this. So it's all means tested. Not to worry. There's not any actual.
Oh yeah. There's still plenty of ways to keep us poor. Don't worry. They're going to keep us poor.
They're good at that.
Don't worry about that. That's all right. They got that handled out here.
Yeah, but I guess the American stimulus package is, some order of magnitude greater than the Canadian stimulus package per capita. Like Trump is the greater Keynesian in this whole thing than Justin Trudeau is, surprisingly. Unbelievable.
Most of it is just like a slush fund for corporations, but what's actually going to people?
Well, at all,
it's minimum wage, basically.
Well, that's what I said to Evan. Like, I was like, I'm sure it's just going to go to like corporate cronies, right? Like, it's not just everyone's going to get money. The stimulus package, the bulk of it has got to be going to like, some nepotistic like little move by Trump. It's classic.
Well, what did they do? He and the Republicans actively stopped the legislation because it was going to allow corporations with employees over the number of like 500 or something to. I forget exactly what the details are. It's been a little while, but yeah, for some reason they insisted on loopholes for those large corporations.
Well,
so it's functionally.
Yeah, it was like something like only if you had over 500 employees would you get bailout money, and then any like small and medium-sized businesses wouldn't. Is it something like that? Like, we got two Americans on here. They probably know.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they are
Yeah,
sending out
speculate.
checks. It's $1,200 per person and $500 per kid. So, for some people, some families, that's going to be, a couple of $1,000, $3,000-$4,000 for Brian, I think.
Yeah, there's. I looked into it. I know what my family is getting, but there's some traps. Like, I have a son who's in college right now, and I claim he's 20. I claim him as a dependent. He's not going to get a payment. He's grown. He's 20 years old. See me touching my face, by the way, constantly. I brought my hands down with it. But,
how dare you?
And I did say, look at that. So I just, I know this is my habit on my last show, so I'm trying to demonstrate good habits here. But
it's a safe space, man. There's no shaming here.
Yeah. So no, we should be shaming the shit out of people doing it.
Absolutely. I'm sitting on my hands right now.
I am. I'm going to start by shaming myself, and that's how I'll correct my own behavior. But my son is 20. He's a college student, and I claim him as a dependent. And so he will not be eligible for this money. So there's still caveats there. And ultimately, what do I got to do? I got to go buy food, and it starts trickling right back up almost immediately. And under our current economic system, where there's no small business, it's Amazon delivers everything. This money essentially all goes right back into Jeff Bezos' pocket. I mean, you can't think about it now. Everybody's scared to death, and rightfully so, by the way, to go to the store around me right now. And so what are they going to do? They're going to order shit off of Amazon. It's all going. Jeff Bezos is going to be a gazillionaire. By the time this is done, he's going to have 3/4 of the money on the planet. I mean, it's insane what we've done. And listen, personally, great. I'm getting $1,200. I'm poor. I need that money. I ain't sending it back. And if anybody is that opposed to it, they can just sign the back of it. I'll give them my address, mail it over. I will take that money. But
we'll dispose of it for you.
Yeah, listen, I'll help you out. Get rid of your money. I promise. Donate njrevolutionradio.com/donate. All right. Now, but look, the bottom line is ultimately this economic stimulus is going to do nothing but benefit the 1.01% and the political class, because it's going to
absolutely.
They've bought our votes. And the meme I posted, Heather knows my personal Facebook page, is very appropriate. The entire country said, please take care of our health and make sure that our jobs are secure. And the government said, well, here's $1,200. Go fuck off.
Go away. Yeah, exactly.
Here's a question for you guys. Is Joe Biden still alive? Has anybody seen him in the last month or so?
There's new sexual assault. There's new sexual harassment allegations come out, which is not new for him, but this new ones are out right now.
Well,
So
it's not even new. This woman went to people in 93, and she's been trying to get support from the Me Too movement, and they were like, fuck off, basically to her, that they're not going to support her. But yeah, it's chilling if you hear that podcast that she did.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely nuts that this isn't being. I think Yahoo News reported on it, and now all the liberal media are reporting on the reporting, but none of them are actually presenting it as they would otherwise if it was somebody else.
Right.
Interesting. Oh, that's an interesting wrinkle. It's like they're supporting. And I was gonna say about that check you get. Up here in Canada, I don't know if this is just in BC, but I get like $350 a month just for having Violet, my little toddler. So like, we don't. Yeah, that's just like part of the deal. It's like,
and I think Brian didn't even have his headphones on to hear that.
Oh, that would be shocking.
No,
this guy, you'd be loaded. You could have another mortage if you lived in Canada.
They get $350 per kid a month up there where Matt is.
Yeah.
$350 a kid a month.
Yeah.
Look at that look on his face. He's like,
It's a lot. I got a lot.
So what about other measures there on the state level, like in New Jersey? Because I know you guys are focused there, or in maybe the surrounding states, like New York. I know is having quite a time of it right now. So what's going on either in New Jersey or in the surrounding states, kind of like politically?
Oh, I mean, the politics are always kind of a shit show. Like, they're putting off primaries for local elections. One down in the southern part of New Jersey is just like, that was a party election for within the Democratic Party. They're like, we're just not going to elect anyone this year. Just whoever won last year is in place again.
Oh,
yeah.
That's not how
Cool.
democracies work.
It's how Jersey works. We do not have a democracy in Jersey. In any way,
Forget
shape,
about
or
it.
Yeah, what we have is some very bastardized. But I mean, every state's pretty fucked up. Which is one of the topics I wanted to talk about today. Was we're going to have this horrible shortage of ventilators, and different states are kind of starting to put in different ways of how they're going to distribute. Like New York is saying they're going to go to a lottery system when, they have to decide who lives and who dies. Basically, because of capitalism and cutbacks in hospitals, they're like, it's like the lottery. Today you get a ventilator and you get a ventilator. But other states, like, I forget what, I think it's Oregon State said anyone over 70 is not going to get a ventilator. And then that brings us to Alabama, who said they're going to practice eugenics, that anyone with autism would not get a ventilator. Anyone with severe mental illness would not get a ventilator, or anyone with head trauma would not get a ventilator. So they're basically telling you who they consider worth saving and who they don't. And
seething.
Yes.
I am seething. Oh man, Captain Concussion over here. I've had 35 of them. That is infuriating to me. My I don't even know how to respond to that. It's like, but it's so strange. Like, why autism? First off, like, why is that? Like, that's so arbitrary. It seems as if they don't want autistic people around anymore. So I guess that's why it's eugenics.
That's what eugenics is. I mean,
so fucking evil.
Trying to, it's vile. And how they're
and then
Oregon.
Like Oregon with no one over the age of 70. Is that what you said? 70?
Yeah.
Like, those are the people who are most at risk.
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
That
it might have
insane.
been Washington. I can't remember if it's Washington or Oregon, but they're all trying to figure out, like, when this ventilator crunch happens and not everyone's going to get them. Like, I guess they don't want the front line. I mean, for like New York, they don't want the nurses to have to make those decisions. Like, that's got to be gut wrenching. I know.
Right.
Deciding who lives and who dies.
Well, it'd be contrary to the Hippocratic Oath, right?
Right. Do nurses take the Hippocratic Oath?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No?
I think just doctors.
Huh.
But so I get that they're trying to take some of the pressure off, but then states like Alabama, and this is eventually going to become racial. Like, somebody's inherent biases. We already know about the biases in medicine. Racial bias of medicine as it is. Doctors not giving as much pain medication to people of color. That's going to come through in who gets a ventilator.
Absolutely. And you also see it here, ageism as well, with like not giving it to people who are most vulnerable, the elderly in this case. But then also in the American context, it's financial or economic comes into play for sure. Like, who doesn't have insurance? Like, are these ventilators going to be equally to hospitals that have like free, like, I can't remember what you guys call them, but like open clinics to people who don't have insurance and stuff? Like, are they going to get any ventilators, or is it only going to go to like Beverly Hills Hospital or whatever the shit, So,
well, did you hear
that's
Trump's
a problem.
latest statement, Brian?
Well, I mean, I'm familiar with the back and forth between him and Governor Cuomo regarding ventilators, which is just, like a fucking Laurel and Hardy sketch. I mean, it's been pathetic on both ends. So idiots, I mean, I can't really. Is that what you're referring to, Heather? I mean,
no, that wasn't even the one. I mean, that is part of it, but
giving me new information.
Not giving, if states weren't expressing enough gratitude to Trump's administration, that basically, like, don't talk to their governors, like, like, if you're not grateful enough for what Trump's doing for you, then.
I don't know, like, what the typical, or what our fellow Canadians here think of the typical American, but this is the kind of shit we've tolerated for decades now. Just complete incompetence in government. Just complete, like, you see this kid dancing behind me? This kid's smarter than Donald fucking Trump. I have more intelligent conversation with that 5-year-old dancing in the background right now, with my 13-year-old son, with my family and friends, with Heather, with everybody in the world, than I've ever heard any dialogue. And I think that one thing I've noticed, and Lori Thomas was on the show yesterday. We did a little special on my show here with a great author. She wrote a book called No More Measles. And if you want to know what's going on right now, you can download it on commieson.com, and we appreciate that, the help and the plug there. But you read this now because it teaches you about what community health means. It means viruses and how all that stuff, all this science stuff. And we got into a conversation about Donald Trump and his role in this. And what I'm seeing and what Lori kind of sees too is what happens around the narcissist when shit needs to get done. And which is everybody just ignores them. And everybody just starts realizing that right at this point, and thank you to those people, by the way, Republicans right now. I mean, think about this. People that are in the Donald Trump administration are around right now doing the right thing to some degree by just working around this guy and just not listening to him. And I encourage that behavior. Do not listen to this guy. But what happens, and I've seen this on a smaller scale, and if anybody's ever worked for a narcissist or been involved in a narcissist, and I key in on this subject both because of personal experience a little bit and also because I saw it all over our government. Narcissists are rewarded in our society, and there's a whole bunch of fact that can back that up. All right. And what you have right now is a narcissist in the middle of this gigantic traumatic event, and nobody's paying attention to him. And it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous because that flips switches in their head that you can't predict. They don't understand a world that doesn't put them first. It doesn't matter. And when you put a narcissist in a position like president, God, those are levels that you just can't even, I can't wrap my mind around what's going on in that fucked up ass head of his.
Well, the other crazy thing is his approval numbers are going up right now too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's feeling a little okay.
Totally. Like he might get reelected off of this. Like I would fully predict that he gets reelected off of this somehow. Like,
well, especially if Joe Biden disappears for a month at a time when national leadership is ostensibly what's necessary to win an election at the moment. It's absolutely nuts. This guy's gonna walk away with it at this rate.
Yeah,
now people are like, oh, we love Cuomo. Like, just because Cuomo is giving the briefing. Now, this guy is an asshole. Like, he has got a track record, but he's giving briefings, and people are like, oh, well, maybe he should be our next president. Like, they're not even caring about his track record of horrible politics. They're just and talk like
I know it's the bar is then set so low. It's like if you can read 14-point font, you can be president of the United States now. Like something that, like, for a couple of Canadians, like, this is one thing that's different in our political and also like sociocultural systems. We don't invest as much importance, like symbolically, in the Prime Minister of Canada as you guys do in the president. Like, sure, they're like, your president has more like executive powers, but the Prime Minister of Canada actually has a lot of executive powers too. We just don't really realize it. But just symbolically, like, much important. Like if I saw Trudeau walking down the street, if I saw Trudeau walking down the street, first off, I'd call him Justin. I'd be like, hey, Justin, I have a problem with like your fiscal policy or something. Like, I just talked to him because he's just an MLA that is promoted to prime minister, basically.
Actually, funny anecdote, if I can interrupt you for a second.
Brian did want to pop in with something, I think.
Sorry, Brian.
Huh? Oh no, I'm sorry. I was. Did you hear the audio come back on you there by accident?
Yeah.
That was my. I apologize for that. I was trying to do a watch party and I screwed everything up.
Oh, okay. Anyway, go ahead, Evan.
Oh yeah. So this summer I had a reading group meeting in the park down the street from my house here in the nation's capital, and we were talking about some socialist book we were reading. I forget what it was now, but there was a guy behind us in the bushes talking really loudly on his cell phone. So I was getting kind of pissed off, and I looked back to go see who it was, and it turned out it was the leader for the NDP, Matt's party. He was interrupting our communist reading group with social democracy on his cell phone. I was not very pleased.
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh, man.
Wait, the leader of a political party was in the bushes?
Yeah. This
can you back that up? Because I didn't realize I was that behind on the conversation.
Okay, so it was right before the national election. So this guy's doing canvassing around town, and this park is it's a pretty happening spot. So he had been in the neighborhood and was on the phone for some reason, but just hiding behind the bushes from us. It was a surreal moment, but not to be unexpected. I saw him go and argue with some guy holding a "End is nigh" sign over on the other side of the park because his bike was parked next to this guy. So it's a lot more you see these people a lot more. I don't think you'd be
This is so
used to
adorably
seeing
Canadian,
Cuomo in the
isn't it?
bushes.
Yeah. No, like our a couple of leaders back of the NDP, his name was Jack Layton. He passed away after a battle with cancer. Kind of became a hero after his death as well. But I've like drank beers, like full beers, and properly watched hockey games with him in bars. Like he'll sit down and like
right into all the stereotypes.
and so, well, I mean, like honestly, it's like that cliche, like, oh, I could have a beer with that guy, like I'll vote for him. It's kind of like that, but like as a Canadian, it's like, is he just a politician wearing the local team's hockey jersey and pretending to know something about hockey? No, not this guy. This guy's sitting down. He's like, oh yeah, this third line winger on the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, he's blah blah blah. Like he really knew hockey, so it was one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, I can relate to that guy.
Well, that's the thing with Canadians too, is we hate having any actual politics in our politics. So
Oh yeah, totally.
Relatability is so much more important than anything you have to say policy wise. We want just competent management and forget about it otherwise. Like the fact that Trudeau appears to be a competent manager in this whole thing, that's exactly what everybody wants.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we're farther behind you guys in terms of the accelerationism that this is going to entail, because everybody wants to go back to normal, and we will go back to normal probably in some regards. Whereas you guys, you might have some real major changes coming down the pipe.
Yeah, it's like we've mentioned it on our show, Nooks and Crannies. Like the jurisdictional issues that you have, like where it's all like federal, state, counties, local, and who's in charge. Like nobody is clearly like in charge. That's why everything seems to be like the shit's basically hitting the fan in all like different pockets around like your country. And then you mentioned something crazy like eugenics in Alabama. Like you can just have like a governor who just decides to like try something new. Like let's let autistic people die. Like that's insane. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and of course some states are like using it as a way of controlling women's right to choose. You know, they're saying that abortion services are not considered essential medical service. You can just wait for that because, you know, there's not a time limit there.
Have you talked to our comrade Roxanne recently?
Yeah, I just talked to her this morning.
It's happening right now. Texas, and I don't want to step in with some bad facts and stuff because I haven't done my research, but I talked to Roxanne just the other day as we're setting up some work with her and the Cherry Hill Women's Center. She said that their Texas and other states have already shut down all abortion clinics, not paying for services. Any funds that flow that they can stop, they're stopping them. And she's working right now very hard to raise money to be able to bring women into New Jersey. We do have a clinic here. It's an independent clinic. They are one of the very few providers in the nation that provide second or third term abortion services for those women that need it. So, you know, if you're out there, there is help out there for women that may need those services. They are critical. They are life-saving. They are services that they are essential services. And it's ridiculous. It's one of the more essential services that needs to be provided for women in our society. But no, the stories are out there, and I know she was already telling me some horrific things about, you know, authorities threatening to jail providers and things like that for practicing abortions, safe and legal abortions in the United States right now. So it's like, you know, thanks for bringing that up. But I just talked to Roxanne. You reminded me. I'm about to come.
Yeah, and also she was saying that like,
on this too. So, you know, stay tuned.
We're not, you know, allowed to gather in groups of more than like your immediate family, but they still have protesters outside their clinic, like groups of people protesting. Like this is a huge safety hazard. Like they're in these little compact, like the parking lot there is not large. I've been there, and like they have a group of like 50 people standing in their parking lot. Like,
see, that's experience right there. I love those little like loopholes upon loopholes that you can turn back against them. Well, technically, you're not supposed to be this close to each other. Smart. It was like that milkshake with the sugar in it kind of thing that you said on our podcast.
I previously taught Matt that a little bit of sugar in your concrete makes it not set up.
Yeah. I've seen that around too. Some good information.
I guess, you know, kind of try to wrap up the COVID a little bit more. I wanted to talk about, since we kind of are all people here that have a platform and we can report on this, you know, positively to create social change. Like, what kind of responsibility do we all feel that what's our place in reporting on COVID? Like, what should we be doing that's to make it the most positive we can be as people who have a news outlet or a podcast or media platform?
I've been really doom and gloom, so I'll right over to Evan.
That's a good question.
You like that, buddy?
Yeah, all the hard ones go to me. No, it's tough. It's completely new, I guess. So our what do we have right now, Matt? Like 40 people listen regularly to us?
Maybe 50.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, I don't know what we can do, honestly, but just try and band together as much as possible. But that's the thing. Once we can't meet in person, it's tricky. It gets really tricky. Just trying to reach out to people has been the only thing that makes sense to me right now. How about you, Heather? Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I think as the media specifically, like, we need to respond, report. Well, this is kind of always what we do. What Brian and I started NJRR to do was report on the stuff that's just not getting the main coverage. Like people that are trying to evict people that are renting from them. Like just douchebag capitalists being douchebag capitalists. Like really pointing out the contradictions of capitalism is kind of, I think, what I've been focusing on. What about you, Brian?
I've been focusing on my mother just calling me and not paying attention to you for 2 seconds.
I get a question for you guys. Is there any talk of rent strikes going on in New Jersey?
Any talk of rent strikes? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, it's circulating in Ottawa a little bit.
Well, we just published like a couple days ago, and it's thankfully getting a lot of traffic. Was it's a local like housing area that their property management, because basically they've said that they won't evict anyone for the next 3 months in New Jersey. Our governor made that statement. Okay. But people are still sending out, like, trying to intimidate their renters and saying, oh, well, make sure that you get that payment in on time, or we'll start the eviction process. Like, as soon as the shutters go down and we're allowed to evict you, you're out, basically, was a letter that somebody sent to their tenants. And like, there's some talk of rent strikes in places, but I don't think I know of anything that's being organized specifically in Jersey. Do you know, Brian? Are you back?
Very few of these like regulations or even kind of protections or stuff are going to stop landlords from doing what they want to do, because they know the government is so weak and they own so many city councils. When you look into property owners and capitalists and other various pigs and miscreants that wander about our state, divvying up resources, the bottom line is, if I'm a landlord and you rent from me, I've got political power, I've got economic power, I've got property power, I've got all kinds of powers over you. And really, regardless, and there is some relief, and there are some groups, like you said, the rent strike and all that. But these are gigantic mountains that ultimately, are very difficult to overcome. So if you're a renter in New Jersey, if you're a renter, period, you live an insecure life, because you don't have anything to fall back. You don't own property, and so it's a very difficult thing to begin with. And this highlights that kind of larger economic system and flaw. But in the immediate future, I don't, from what I've seen of the capitalist class in New Jersey and the pigs that run the Democratic Party, nobody's going to give a shit about these people, regardless of what Governor Murphy. And I do believe that Governor Murphy's got some good intentions here. And I listened to his statements, and he does feel like he's a guy who's leading, and he's got narrative going on, and right now, and he's acting like a guy who's in charge, and I respect that in times of crisis. Even though I don't really like him too much in policy, and he's from Goldman Sachs, so I'm not going to be, as a communist, a big fan. But there's other people in government that are just absolute scumbags. They're openly scumbags. They've always been openly scumbags. And we simply don't give a shit in New Jersey. And we will let these people run away with our political system. And so, when you're a renter and you're faced with, all this power and money, you're fucked no matter what, Governor Murphy says. And
yeah.
It.
Yeah.
You listen to this guy make all these decrees, and you sit back, and the average working class poor person sit back. You know what? Give me this check. You ain't going to change shit, because we know what's coming. We're very cynical in New Jersey at the working class. When you talk to, maybe you listen to soaring rhetoric out of Cory Booker, that dude ain't I don't know where the fucking New Jersey he's from, because we don't buy into none of that glorified shit. None of it.
I don't believe, and I bet our Canadian friends don't know about T-Bone.
T-Bone!
He made up a gangster that was intimidating him, like a gang member, totally fictional gang member that he like made up this story that he got into a street fight with. Like,
this is Cory Booker?
This is Cory Booker.
That seems like that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Like it
Find
just
out
reminds
who
me
won.
of Trump's imaginary friend, Barron or whatever. He named his kid after his imaginary friend. Donald Trump did.
John Barron, yeah.
Rising political superstars. Every time I hear
Yeah.
that term. Oh.
Does
So is
anybody
there-
support
yeah.
Booker anywhere? Like, not New Jersey, obviously. Who does Booker like turn to? Who's actually pro Booker outside the New York Times?
Yeah, people with money. Like
Yeah.
Booker he has been groomed by millionaires to be their poster boy since
Okay.
you know, it was this is forever ago when Booker first ran. This is back when I was still a Democrat. This was a while ago, but when he first ran, he was the first Democrat I couldn't bring myself to vote for because he had gone to like Koch brothers training about education because he was big on charter schools, which basically rips away public education, rips money from it and resources. And I'm like, I can't vote for this guy. So but he's been groomed since then to be the mouthpiece for the rich.
Really? So is this like post-Obama? Did they decide that this is the way to go? You get a charismatic young man of color to make your policies work, or has this been going on longer?
There's a machine. There's simply a machine in place in New Jersey where you have recruiting through labor unions, nonprofits, various others, entities. Yeah, when we think about the Democratic Party, when we think about political parties, large political parties. Now, I'm not talking about Heather and I are involved with Green Party and independents and small little upstarts that generally don't really win office, but just make politicians miserable by running against them and having them complain about us. But there's activism involved, there's social justice work, and we move policy. And to see the inner workings of that is how you understand that. And it is, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I will say, for the Democratic Party, it's not an entity. It's not. It's a network. It's a network that works
Right
through a process. And so, there's a systemic grooming process under which they look for candidates that will support the current machine. And then they are risen to power through this network of support through electoral politics. The AFL-CIO in our state is tremendously powerful in their efforts to elect union members. Is admirable on its surface. They've elected, I believe, 800 and something, what they would purport to be working class union members. But, when you start dipping into this machine, these are union members who have, cozied up to the union boss, who's cozied up to the assemblyman, who's cozied up to this guy and that guy. So, what are we really getting working class people? Well, I can tell you, I'm a working class guy, and my dad was a shop steward, but definitely not union brass, right? I mean, so I came up through the ranks, spent 14 years climbing telephone poles for a living, came up through the unions, and I wound up getting hired by a major labor union as a staff representative, and I was there 4 years before I got fired for my politics and basically not cozying to Democrats. I mean, not being a part of that machine. I was even taken out of the political work, which I was very comfortable with. Because I wasn't involved in the political workings of the union anymore, and I was doing more of the grassroots work, and which I really loved genuinely. But it didn't matter because I'm not towing the company line, so to speak. So it's a
manufacturing consent type situation and all that, huh?
I was groomed. They started with me, and this is how I know so much about it. It's not. I hear some of the talk from conspiracy theorists and stuff about brainwashing, and I do talk like that a little bit, but it's not conspiracy theory. It's lived experience for me. So. I was groomed and I failed the test and they fucking destroyed my life. And that's what they do to people, So if you work with the machine and not everybody recognizes it, I'll just end on that thought that I think a lot of people get involved for the right reasons. And I got involved, what I believe, for the right, Heather's got involved for the right reasons into these movements and this media network we've built and this social justice stuff. And it's not, but as you come up, you may not realize. I think some of these people just come in naive a little bit. I was a little older when they started grooming me. I was 39, 40. So I lived experience and I knew something was up and I knew these people were shady and I caught on early. But if you're not that in tune with what's going on around you and the tactics being employed on you as you're groomed, then you just wind getting swept up. And I think I would say that Cory Booker is a prime example of a dude that may not be fully aware of the scum and shit stains that have gotten him into power. because
absolutely,
it's not always visible to the person being groomed, and because if they realized what was happening, they would probably stop it a lot earlier, and that's what happened to me. I realized what was happening before it happened, and so.
Well, if you have a coherent set of politics at all, you're not going to be able to go along with these sorts of things. But clearly, people like Booker, anybody who actually makes it to anywhere up there, will just be swept away with whatever soaring rhetoric they're thrown at.
And to these people, like Brian and I are the enemy. You know, like the fact that we're coming in with a different voice and we're loud and not like embarrassed about having, that we go to politicians. Like I stood in my local congressperson's office and I'm like, I'm a socialist. What are you doing for me? And he told me I was un-American and to get out, basically. But, like the fact that we have this alternate voice, we're the enemy to them, definitely.
Well, especially at moments like this, I bet it's going to be especially threatening once the major democratic institutions are, shown to be lacking at the very least.
That's putting it lightly.
Locally here, I live fairly near Atlantic City, not too far from Atlantic City. And there's a union who literally, like, these people in this union, they're like the hotel workers union. The people that live in Atlantic City are very impoverished, like extremely one of the most impoverished areas in the state and probably in the country. And the people that work in the casinos, they had them sign on the way in, like this, basically in Atlantic City, you're allowed to bring a resolution to city council to be voted on. They made them because it was like the union was standing there with clipboards on the way in saying, sign this resolution to give up your right to bring about resolutions. Basically, they're kind of doing away with the democratically elected mayor. It would just be a mayor that would be appointed. That's kind of like the municipal officer, and getting rid of like half of the city council for being elected. And this union was forcing people to sign this on the way into work. Well,
didn't they try and make him the emergency manager for a little while? Was it the same guy? Like
McDevitt? No.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to speak out.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So they're forcing people on the way in to sign a resolution to give up their right to bring about resolution. To
what end? What are the union doing this, right? So they're trying to. What are they trying to affect by doing that?
Bringing about a scumbag into more power in Atlantic City.
This is every day.
Yeah,
every day in New Jersey. This is how shit operates, bro. That's how we do things. How things get done.
I've only spent about half an hour in New Jersey in my life. We got off the highway too early to go to Brooklyn, or Manhattan, I guess. So we drove around Jersey for half an hour, and I'm learning that's probably the only half hour I want to spend there.
It's beautiful, especially down by me. It's a beautiful state. I live in one of the most pristine areas of nature. Like no one thinks about Jersey looking like it looks like down by me.
Well, it's supposed to be the Garden State, right?
It is.
It is down by me.
I think.
Oh, okay. Only there.
Like she said, it's beautiful, and the people here are awesome. And we have got every culture in the world right here in New Jersey. It's in pockets. You got to know where it is sometimes, but I don't care if you want Filipino food, if you want to go hang out at a gay bar, if you want to go, make music with lesbians who wear squirrel hats. They're here. I'm telling you, like it's beautiful and it's diverse. In pockets, I think I wish we were kind of together more on things. But I think like if you want a little culture, you can find it in New Jersey. And it's a shame that our political system makes it such a mess. I do complain a lot, but go down to the Jersey Shore and grab a slice of pizza on a beautiful summer's day. We have nature here, and we have a lot of things to come. So it's a shame that they fuck it up this bad because it could be.
Well, it's good to hear. Good to hear. There's redeeming qualities, and maybe I will drop by sometime.
People, yeah, you guys all, our friends to the north. You have to come down. I mean, not right now because they're building a wall around us. But,
I'll stamp their paperwork.
For our own personal safety, we've been advised to stay out of your country. How's that feel?
Is that about the COVID thing or just in general?
In general.
But you guys are putting 1,000 troops at our border too. Is that going to pass? Yeah. That was the idea at one point. We were strongly opposed. I read in the paper.
It's because we closed the border to America. Trump is like, I'll show you, and I'll bring soldiers up there. It's
I don't know what
like
they
one
do
up
though.
your shift.
There's not much point in that. I don't see what they'd
Right.
actually
You
get
guys
up
don't
to.
have the Second Amendment nuts up there like we have.
We're not
Like, I call you
rushing.
Matt.
We're not running to go invade your country either. I don't understand. Like, we don't want to go there. They got a lot of COVID right now.
We
Brian's
got
even
Alberta.
pointing out
That's
his kid has
that's
a gun
the
there.
two-way spot.
Yeah, we got Alberta. That's enough for us.
Like, we
Alberta's
actually
like
have
mini
states right
Texas,
now
sure.
that are suing the governor, or we have like organizations that are suing the governor for saying that gun shops aren't essential. Like, they shut down
That's so
non-essential
scary.
businesses, and
That's
they're like,
so
no,
scary.
guns are essential.
That's not no. That's not right. Nurses are essential.
Right. No. They're suing the governor because guns are essential.
Believe it or not, Walmart employees are all of a sudden essential. Like, there's essential workers out there, not gunsmiths.
Well, I mean,
I
I
guess
think this
Walmart
is really
sell guns too,
showing
right?
like
No, they
who
don't,
really
yeah.
does drive the economy, like who really is
Yeah.
essential to the economy are the workers, like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the whole world has like kind of realized that, or at least in the so-called like developed West, that we're routinely thanking like grocery store employees. I don't know how many times people have done that before, so that's
Right.
it's a nice thing. Like now, like myself, Evan as well, like we've worked many years in like kind of thankless customer service kind of level jobs, like right at the bottom of the pay scale. And we don't get thanked all the time. Occasionally it happens, but because of those experiences that we have, I think I don't know, I'll speak for myself. Evan's kind of an asshole, but but no, I like to think that I thank customer service employees, and it seems like a lot of people are doing that for the first time, and also realizing how vital some of these jobs are to our society, not just our economy, but the actual functioning of our society. So it's I think with this COVID thing, I think it's everyone's kind of had a bit of a wake up, and I think the world has kind of taken a bit of a sigh or like a breath, and everything has kind of slowed down a little bit, and I think people are realizing that is kind of nice.
The question with that wake up is everybody going to say thank you to the Loblaws employee tomorrow, and then in 6 months' time we're all going to forget about the fact that the workers are the ones? I think that's what we're on track for right now. I think there's going to have to be like fundamental systemic shifts before we actually start to like this isn't necessarily the harbinger of anything long term, unless we figure out some way to
but
make
any
it.
sort of change though has to start with like a spark, right? Whether it's assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand or thanking your Walmart employee, but the fact that like employees of these giant grocery stores, they don't, whether or not they get like sick leave, and they're going to lose their job if they stay home, these sorts of dynamics, those are the things that need to change, of course.
Yeah, well, and they need to be, organizing, which is nice to see. There's, I found out I was going to have a grocery delivery on Monday, tomorrow, and it turns out I'm not, because they're striking the app that I use to have groceries sent to me.
Really?
So hopefully,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Now I feel awful for even going through them, but it's good to see that there's actual, organizational pushes going on right now.
What grocery store is that?
It's not a store. It's
What is it?
let me look it up.
Political action. Yeah, no, it's that's one
Instacart.
thing. Yeah, Instacart, right? Okay, like that's one thing. Like I didn't think about like, will this spark like the call for more unionization? Because like the unionization in the private sector is at least in Canada, I'm sure it's the same in the States. That's the thing that declined since like Reagan, essentially, right? So private sector unionization, and also something I've noticed, and we mentioned it on the show, I think offhandedly, but I'm surprised as a Canadian that I'm not seeing on social media a lot more vocal calls for like a national healthcare service in your country, in America. Like, I would think that of all times, this moment right now in the middle of a global pandemic, Americans would be shouting from their rooftops for healthcare, and you barely see it. Like, you see it here and there, but I would think that like every other post should be that, So
yeah, that's just where the temperature of the country is very, I don't know, we're opposed to having healthcare. Like, even though like you see a lot of surveys that say that, it would be cheaper, it would be better, like people with like, horrible, like, because we don't, usually dental isn't even included in any sort of medical care. People with horrible dental care are like, no, I don't want the socialism. Like, it's
so dumb. It's almost like you need the law passed to protect people from their own ignorance on it. Like, just pass the fucking law. Stop selling out to insurance companies and just get healthcare for God's sake. I mean,
like I see the
obviously the
craziest
choir
stuff on
that I'm preaching
social
to.
media. The craziest thing on social media is now there are these stores that are out of everything. You know, there's no toilet paper, there's no meat, there's no eggs, and they're like, yeah, this is what it would look like under socialism. Like, no, this is exactly what it looks like under capitalism.
Evan just got back from Cuba, actually.
Oh, really?
How was that?
Back in
Yeah,
like
that's great.
January as
Oh, I
well
wanna hear
before
about
this
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see. I think I saw one store, but everybody was well fed, it seems. So I think they're probably doing just fine. They're sending doctors all over the place right now too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
80 reported cases on the entire island before they locked it down, and so something like that. I mean, I saw the numbers on it the other day. They were, I mean, compared to what we're dealing with, I mean, it's just like,
Yeah. Well, and you know the testing
like
too, right?
There's some death. There's like a death or two, and like you're dealing with it. And of course, that's a tragedy. But for the most part, they're just, they're setting in place the operation that's there to take care of their citizens.
That's
And
what
they're
it is
so
like
confident they're sending doctors out. Like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I love that form of propaganda where you send your doctors around the world. And I know China has sent a bunch of surgical masks and gloves and stuff like that around the world. I think just sort of say like, sorry. But yeah, no, it's I mean, in BC it's similar where we've had, I'm pretty sure it's 14 deaths at this point. We have like 400 cases, but for a province with like 4 or 5 million people in it, that's not that much, right? So it's like it's a proof positive that. Oh yeah, you did it. What's how you guys
so we're at, as of 1:30 today, we have 13,386 infected, 161 deaths.
Yeah,
and that's just in New Jersey.
I think that's bigger than our national number.
Yeah, for sure.
And New York, I don't even know what New York's numbers are, but it's like probably
Washington
around 60,000. I think New York is the worst, and I think they're around 60,000 infected. But yeah,
that's insane.
That's
like a population density situation, probably, right? With like New York City and stuff.
Well, New Jersey's the most densely populated state. We've only got a few minutes left, so I want to get in plugs for everybody and everything that your shows, our shows. Who wants? Let's start with Evan. I'm gonna plug your show.
I don't know if he's ever done this before. Go for it.
I let Matt do it. I try not to.
No, it's a good treat for me. I'm taking my headphones off.
Find us at Nooks and Crannies Pod. Me and Matt, we talk about politics, but also all sorts of crazy stuff. Matt's a trained anthropology specialist. I'm an untrained anthropology specialist. So we we talk about all kinds of things. Check us out. Matt can do a better plug than I can. Check him out on Facebook, actually. He's a good poster, too.
At times.
Yeah, I've had so much fun being on your show. Although I've never been on, I think Evan's a little bit afraid of me. Like, Evan will come on the show at the same time as me.
I have never been on for a single guest, actually, so far. This is my first time talking to people not Matt in podcasting, so I'm breaking out of my shell here.
Yeah, we just popped his cherry tonight.
Do you have any more plugs, Matt?
You can find Nooks and Crannies anywhere you find your podcasts. We're on all of the streaming services as well as Spotify. We're most active on Twitter and Facebook. Facebook, I go a little wacky. So if you send me a friend request and you look like you're left-leaning, I'm going to say yes. So check me out on Facebook.
That's literally how Matt and I became friends. Was we were in some podcasting group, and they're like, "What makes you unique?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a communist." And Matt's like, "And you're going to be my friend now."
Like, friend request.
That's why I keep him on the podcast. He's got good social skills.
What's going on your show on Wednesday, Brian?
This Wednesday, I'll be having some immigrants' rights activists on, as well as I'm going to make some phone calls and find us a comrade who's involved in incarceration activity and what's going on in our prison system, around COVID and other issues, everything. I think at this point, we've also been in constant contact with Lori Endicott Thomas. I mentioned her earlier, but I got to give her one more plug before we get out on commieszon.com. Grab her book. It's a downloadable ebook. It's $4. You got your Trump checks. You guys are getting $2 a month. Spend 4 of them. I don't know if we can take Canadian dollars. I don't know. Figure it out.
We'll send you 6 loonies. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll do the conversion. See how fast that was?
Yeah, there's always ways of look, capitalism will always find a way, I think. So we appreciate, but those proceeds do go to benefit New Jersey Revolution Radio, independent media, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be in close contact. I'm maintaining contact with as much as I can. I'm paying attention to these things. I see Nightwolf there commenting on the stream. No, Nightwolf, this is not a conspiracy theory and it's not a prank. Stay home, wash your hands, stay home, and stay home. Just if you're not essential, if you don't need to be out, stay home. If you're in these areas that are affected, stay home. Just do what you got to do to prevent the spread of this very real threat to a lot of people. And speaking as a guy, like I said, very close from ground zero, I appreciate every single person in the world doing what they're supposed to do, whether it's an essential worker out there saving lives, whether it's a food supply worker, making sure that we eat our food, or whether it's the people doing what they're supposed to do, staying home, not contacting people at risk, and just doing what you got to do. So, we're going to keep up on that, which we're acting as responsible as possible. There's always the political angle, right, which we discuss because it's important. But this is an emergency. We're not screwing around on New Jersey Revolution Radio Live. We're trying to bring you facts. We're trying to bring you, we're trying to reinforce with our audiences and people that take us, as to be, people that really care and have a, heart and an empathy for everybody that's with this human struggle. This is an important historic time. We need to bond together. We need to stay home and wash our hands. So that's our message, basically, until we pass this crisis. And then we will continue to complain about capitalism and immigration and everything else that's broken on our society. But right now we got to band together and beat this thing.
And I'm going to throw in my plug here at the end on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. My new episode of Wine, Women, and Revolution goes up, and we're talking about the economics of COVID. I'm calling the episode's called Plague Economics, and it's talking about how our government, because we print our own money here in the United States, that we could just like that, commission manufacturers to start making ventilators. We could get them to start making masks. We have frontline workers wearing trash bags as protective gear, and we could just simply command businesses, pay them to start making protective gear. We have that ability, and it's just we lack the political will. So we're talking about that a little bit, about what the economics of this really could look like, and why we're kind of doing it the hard way in this country instead of taking care of people. So that's a pretty good dive. I have some one that I've had on before, expert in modern monetary theory, is going to be talking a little bit about that. So tune in wherever you get your podcast from tomorrow at 8 a.m. And you can also be an exclusive Patreon member, and that gets you early access. You don't have to wait till Monday morning. If you are one of our Patreon members, you'd have already heard my episode on Plague Economics, because that went up live for them earlier. And Brian also makes exclusive videos from his shows for our Patreon subscribers. And other than that, you can find our website, www.njrevolutionradio.com. Get us wherever you get podcasts from, and we're on all the social medias as NJ Revolution Radio.
Arts and activism for New Jersey and around the world.
And hopefully, if we are ever allowed to leave the house again, we will have those arts and activism events again.
Hey, it's the 21st century. We can do it online, I guess. Or we're going to have to.
Anybody want a last word before we close it out for the day?
Your episode that comes out tomorrow sounds really interesting, Heather. Honestly, like I was going to say, when we think about economics and COVID, we usually are hearing from the lamestream media about the economic implications for, big business and what have you. But I think it's really interesting to take that you're taking is how we can use the economic weight that you have in that country to, hopefully stop the spread of this terrible disease.
All right, we can go around. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have closing lines or not, but mine, the future is yours to create. Go out there and create it.
Don't usually some rebuke of Matt.
You guys gotta have sign-offs in radio. You have sign-offs.
Mine is talk to y'all soon. Aren't we lucky?
Okay. This is Brian Powers, and I want to remind everybody that the police can quit their jobs.
I like that.
All right. Good show, everyone. See you all later.
Thank you.